There comes a moment in life when silence becomes the only sound you hear. The room that was once filled with laughter, with familiar voices echoing like melodies in a song, suddenly becomes empty. The phone that used to ring with invitations and affections now sits still, as if the world has forgotten your number. The places where you once found joy seem distant. The people who once claimed to stand by you fade like whispers in the wind. And you ask yourself, why? Why does life pull you away from everything you once knew? Why does it feel like a hand has reached down and placed you in a season of isolation, far from the crowds, far from comfort, far from what you once called home? Perhaps the loneliness isn't a punishment. Perhaps the silence isn't abandonment. Perhaps it is a preparation, a clearing away of distractions, a setting apart, a divine cocoon in which transformation is taking place. Because before great blessings come, there is often a season of stillness, a time when you are removed from the noise, pulled away from the familiar, and made to walk a path alone, not because you are forgotten, but because you are being prepared for something greater than you have ever known. Look back on the stories of those who have walked before you. The ones who stood in the light first had to endure the darkness. The ones who rose in power first had to embrace solitude. The ones who reached the mountaintop first had to wander through the valley. It is in isolation that character is refined. It is in loneliness that purpose is revealed. It is in the quiet that a whisper speaks louder than 1,000 shouts. And in that whisper, the next steps become clear. Many misunderstand the isolation. They think it means rejection, think it means loss. They fight against it, chase after the doors that have closed, beg for the friendships that have faded, run after the things that were never meant to stay. But what if the very thing you are holding on to is the thing keeping you from the blessing ahead? What if the separation is not to break you, but to build you? What if the hands that pulled you away were not the hands of cruelty, but the hands of love, moving you from what could destroy you toward what will elevate you? Growth does not happen in the midst of comfort. The seed does not sprout in the open air. It is buried beneath the soil, unseen, forgotten, hidden away from the world. The caterpillar does not transform in the presence of others. It is wrapped in the cocoon, alone, enclosed in a space so tight, so dark, that it seems as if it may never emerge again. And yet, when the season is right, when the process is complete, the butterfly breaks free, the seed pushes through the earth, and what was once hidden is revealed in all its glory. You may be in a season of isolation now. You may be looking around and wondering why the faces that once surrounded you are gone. You may be questioning why the doors that once opened freely are now locked. But instead of asking why you are alone, ask what is being prepared for you in the quiet. Ask what strength is being built, what lessons are being taught, what foundations are being laid. Because before the blessing comes, there is always a preparation. Before the breakthrough, there is always a season of refining. Before the elevation, there is always a moment of separation. The waiting is never easy. The loneliness can feel unbearable. The silence can make you wonder if you are truly alone. But do not mistake the quiet for absence. Do not mistake the stillness for emptiness. Because something is happening in the unseen. Something is shifting. Something is aligning. Something is being put in place that your eyes cannot yet perceive. The ones who cannot walk with you in this season were never meant to go where you are headed. The things that have fallen away were never meant to last. The opportunities that disappeared were never meant to define you. You are being set apart. You are being molded. You are being strengthened for what is to come. The world may not understand your journey. They may question your solitude, wonder why you have withdrawn, whisper that you have lost your way. But not everyone can comprehend the path of those being prepared for greater things. Not everyone can see the masterpiece while it is still being painted. Not everyone can recognize the value of what is being formed in the hidden places. One day the doors will open. One day the pieces will come together. One day you will step into the blessing that has been prepared for you, and in that moment you will understand why you had to be alone for a time. You will see why certain people could not stay, why certain things had to be removed, why the season of isolation was necessary. Because before the blessing, there is always a breaking. Before the promise, there is always a process. And before the light, there is always a moment of darkness. But when the time is right, when the preparation is complete, what was hidden will be revealed, what was buried will rise. and what was set apart will shine for all to see. The silence can be deafening. It creeps into your days, lingers in your nights, wraps itself around your thoughts like a heavy fog. You reach for the voices that once filled your world, but they are no longer there. The people you once depended on seem distant. The places that once brought comfort feel foreign. And somewhere deep inside, the questions begin to rise. Why has everything changed? Why have the doors closed? Why does it feel like you are standing alone in a world that used to be full? But what if the silence is not an absence but an invitation? What if the loneliness is not a punishment but a preparation? What if the very thing you fear, the stillness, the separation, the solitude, is the very thing that is shaping you for something greater? Because before great blessings come, there is always a season of isolation. Before elevation, there is always a moment of separation. Before the promise is fulfilled, there is always a time of pruning. Growth does not happen in the comfort of the crowd. Diamonds are not formed in the open air but under pressure, deep beneath the surface, hidden where no eye can see. Gold is not purified without fire. The sculptor does not carve his masterpiece in the presence of an audience, but in solitude, chipping away the excess, shaping the vision that only he can see. The process is never easy, but it is always necessary. You may not understand it now, but every season of separation is designed with purpose. You are being set apart, molded, refined. The things you once leaned on are being removed so that you will learn to stand firm on a foundation that cannot be shaken. The voices you once relied on are being silenced so that you can hear the whisper of something greater. The doors you once walked through are being shut so that you do not settle for less than what has been prepared for you. Not everyone can go where you are going. Not everyone can handle the weight of the calling placed upon you. There are people you love, people you have walked with, people who have been part of your journey for a season, but not everyone is meant to go the whole way with you. Some were only meant to be there for a chapter, to teach a lesson, to guide you through a moment, to walk with you until the path demanded separation. The ones who have left, the opportunities that have vanished, the places that no longer feel like home. These are not losses, they are shifts. Shifts that are aligning you with something greater, something beyond what you can see. You may not recognize it now, but one day you will look back and understand why certain things had to fall away. You will see that every closed door was not rejection, but redirection. Every moment of solitude was not emptiness, but preparation. Every step into the unknown was not a loss, but an invitation into something new. There will be moments when you question the journey, moments when the weight of loneliness presses so heavily on your chest that you wonder if you have been forgotten. Moments when you long for the familiar, for the comfort of the past, for the certainty of what once was. But growth does not come in comfort. Strength is not built in ease. Purpose is not revealed in places that no longer serve your destiny. You are being stretched beyond what you thought you could endure. You are being shaped in ways you do not yet understand. You are being taught lessons that will sustain you in the places you are being called to. And though it may feel like you are walking through a wilderness, know that wilderness seasons always precede promised lands. Every great story begins with a season of obscurity. Every great leader was first tested in the hidden places. Every powerful voice was once an unheard whisper. You must trust the process, even when it does not make sense. You must walk forward, even when the path is unclear. You must let go of what was, even when your heart longs to hold on, because what is coming is greater than what has been. The blessings ahead require a version of you that cannot be formed in the comfort of the past. The opportunities waiting for you demand a strength, a resilience, a depth that can only be developed in the stillness of isolation. There will be people who do not understand your journey, people who question your decisions, who do not see the vision, who cannot comprehend the process. But the approval of others was never meant to validate your path. The opinions of the crowd were never meant to define your purpose. Some will walk away, some will misunderstand, some will assume you have lost your way. But you must remain steadfast, knowing that solitude is not a sign of failure, but of preparation. You must embrace the quiet. You must lean into the stillness. You must allow yourself to be shaped, to be refined, to be made ready for what is to come. The preparation is not forever, but it is necessary. The isolation is not permanent, but it is purposeful. And one day, when the doors swing open, when the path becomes clear, when the blessings that have been waiting finally unfold before you, you will understand why you had to walk alone for a time. You will see that every tear, every lonely night, every moment of questioning was not in vain. You will see that the things you lost were never meant to last, and the things you gained in the stillness were far greater than anything you left behind. You will see that the separation was not rejection, but alignment, that the isolation was not abandonment, but elevation, that the silence was not emptiness, but the preparation for something beyond your wildest dreams. And in that moment, when everything falls into place, when the blessings finally arrive, when the purpose is finally revealed, you will look back on this season not with regret, but with gratitude, because you will know that every moment of isolation was shaping you, strengthening you, molding you into the person you were always meant to be. And the journey, though difficult, was worth it. The weight of isolation can feel unbearable. There are days when you wake up and wonder why the world has gone quiet, why the friends you once held close have drifted away, why the things that once brought you joy no longer fill the emptiness that lingers in your chest. It is a season where everything familiar is stripped away, and all you are left with is yourself. No distractions, no noise, no comfort of the past to lean on. Just you, alone, in a space where the silence forces you to listen, to reflect, to confront the depths of who you are. Many resist this season, fight against it, try to run back to what was. But what if this moment is not meant to break you, but to build you? What if the loneliness is not a punishment, but a necessary transformation? What if the space you are in right now is the place where your greatest strength is being formed? Growth does not happen in places of ease. Diamonds are not shaped without pressure. Gold is not refined without fire. And purpose is not birthed without a season of separation. It is in the quiet that clarity comes. It is in the stillness that direction is revealed. It is when the voices fade and the distractions disappear that you finally begin to understand who you are meant to be. Many people miss their purpose because they are afraid of isolation. They cling to relationships that no longer serve them. They hold on to routines that keep them stagnant. They run back to environments that do not challenge them to grow. But when you are called to something greater, there comes a time when you must walk alone. Not everyone is meant to continue the journey with you. Some people were only meant to be part of your story for a season. Some places were only meant to be stepping stones, not final destinations. Some opportunities were only meant to prepare you for what is truly yours. And when it is time to move forward, the separation can feel painful, confusing, even unfair. But trust that nothing is being taken away that is meant to stay. You must learn to embrace the isolation, not as a sign of loss, but as a season of preparation. When everything around you seems to be falling apart, it may actually be falling into place. When doors close, it is not to leave you empty, but to redirect you towards something better. When people walk away, it is not because you are unworthy, but because your journey requires a different path. There will be moments when you doubt this process, when the silence makes you question if you are on the right path, when the waiting feels endless, and you wonder if anything is ever going to change. But growth is not always visible in the moment. A seed buried in the ground looks like it has been forgotten, but beneath the surface, roots are forming, strength is building, and when the time is right, it will break through the earth and rise into something beautiful. The same is happening for you. You may feel buried right now, hidden away, unseen, but this is not your end. This is your becoming. Every great leader, every powerful voice, every person who has walked in purpose has had a season where they were removed from the crowd, set apart, refined in the quiet. Because what is being prepared for you requires a version of you that cannot be formed in the midst of distractions. Do not rush this season. Do not despise the waiting. Do not fight against the separation. Instead, lean into it. Allow yourself to be shaped, to be stretched, to be strengthened. Take this time to reflect, to heal, to grow. Because when the time comes, when the doors open, when the blessings arrive, you will understand why you had to walk this road alone for a time. There will be a day when the isolation will end, when the silence will be replaced with purpose, when the things that felt like losses will be revealed as gains. And in that moment, you will see that you were never alone, that the waiting was never wasted, that every tear, every lonely night, every moment of questioning was leading you to something greater than you could have imagined. The ones who cannot endure the season of isolation never reach the fullness of their purpose. They give up too soon, turn back too quickly, settle for less because the waiting feels too long. But those who trust the process, who allow themselves to be refined, who walk through the fire without running away, those are the ones who emerge stronger, wiser, ready to receive what has been prepared for them. So if you find yourself in a place of solitude, do not fear it. If the people you once relied on are gone, do not chase after them. If the familiar doors have closed, do not try to force them open. Instead, trust that this is a season of transformation, a time where you are being prepared, strengthened, positioned for something greater. And when the time is right, you will step into it with confidence, knowing that the isolation was never to harm you, but to prepare you for the blessings that are coming. You may not see it now, but one day everything will make sense. One day you will look back and realize that the things you thought were setbacks were actually setups, that the silence was not emptiness but alignment, that the waiting was not delay but preparation. And in that moment, you will be grateful for every lonely night, every closed door, every step you had to take alone, because you will know that it was all leading you to something greater. The road of isolation is not an easy one. There are days when it feels like a desert, barren and dry, with no sign of life ahead. You wonder if the journey will ever change, if the silence will ever break, if the path will ever lead to something more than just waiting. You see others moving forward, stepping into new seasons, embracing new opportunities, while you remain in a place that feels still, unseen, forgotten. But what if the delay is not denial? What if the waiting is not a punishment, but a process? What if, in this season of solitude, something is being built inside of you that cannot be formed any other way? It is easy to look at isolation as a curse, to believe that something must be wrong, that you have taken the wrong path, that you have been left behind. But separation is often the first step toward transformation. Before a tree reaches for the sky, its roots must go deep. Before a structure is built, the foundation must be laid. Before a vision is fulfilled, the one carrying it must be prepared. The quiet place is not the place of punishment, it is the place of preparation. This is where your faith is strengthened, where your character is refined, where your heart is tested. In the absence of distractions, in the stripping away of comfort, you come face to face with who you really are. No applause to validate you, no voices to affirm you, no familiarity to hold on to, just you, standing in the rawness of the moment, forced to confront the doubts, the fears, the insecurities that have long been hidden beneath the surface. This is where transformation happens. This is where you learn what it means to be strong even when no one is watching, to hold on to faith even when the evidence of change is not yet visible, to keep walking even when the road ahead is uncertain. This is where your faith is strengthened, where your character is refined, where your heart is tested. In the absence of distractions, in the stripping away of comfort, you come face to face with who you really are. No applause to validate you, no voices to affirm you, no familiarity to hold on to, just you, standing in the rawness of the moment, forced to confront the doubts, the fears, the insecurities that have long been hidden beneath the surface. This is where transformation happens. This is where you learn what it means to be strong even when no one is watching, to hold on to faith even when the evidence of change is not yet visible, to keep walking even when the road ahead is uncertain. This is where your faith is strengthened, where your character is refined, where your heart is tested. In the absence of distractions, in the stripping away of comfort, you come face to face with who you really are. No applause to validate you, no voices to affirm you, no familiarity to hold on to, just you, standing in the rawness of the moment, forced to confront the doubts, the fears, the insecurities that have long been hidden. Many people resist this process. They fight against the separation, try to hold on to what is being taken away, refuse to surrender to the shaping that is happening. But the more you resist, the longer the season lasts. Growth requires surrender. Transformation requires trust. There are things being formed in you now that will sustain you in the places you are being called to. The wisdom, the patience, the resilience, the ability to stand firm when storms come, these are the qualities that are built in the unseen places. in the quiet seasons, in the moments when it feels like nothing is happening, but something is happening. Even if you cannot see it yet, even if everything on the surface looks unchanged, something is shifting in the depths of who you are. There is a refining, a molding, a strengthening taking place. Every delay is shaping you. Every lonely night is stretching you. Every unanswered question is deepening your faith. The work being done in this season will reveal its purpose in the right time. And when that time comes, you will understand why the isolation was necessary. You will see why certain people could not stay, why certain doors had to close, why certain opportunities had to be withheld. Because what is ahead is greater than what was behind. Because you were not being abandoned, you were being set apart. Because the place you are going requires a version of you that could only be formed in the stillness of this season. When the moment comes, when the doors finally open, when the blessings arrive, it will happen suddenly. What seemed delayed will come together in an instant. What seemed lost will be restored in a way greater than you could have imagined. The waiting will not have been in vain. The struggle will not have been without purpose. The isolation will not have been for nothing. But you must endure. You must hold on. You must trust even when it does not make sense. Because the ones who give up in the silence never see the promise fulfilled. The ones who run back to comfort never experience the fullness of what was meant for them. The ones who refuse to let go never receive the new things waiting ahead. You are not forgotten. You are not left behind. You are not stuck. You are in the process of becoming. You are being shaped, stretched, refined. And one day, when everything falls into place, when the blessing is revealed, when the purpose unfolds, you will look back on this season with gratitude. Because you will know that every moment of isolation, every tear, every unanswered question was leading you to something far greater than you ever expected. There will be days when you question everything, when the silence feels louder than the voices that once filled your life, when the loneliness seems unbearable and the isolation feels like a weight pressing against your chest. It is in these moments that doubt creeps in, whispering that you have been forgotten, that you have been left behind, that nothing is changing, that nothing ever will. But doubt is a deceiver. It magnifies the emptiness and hides the truth. And the truth is this: separation is not rejection. Isolation is not abandonment. The space you are in is not a mistake. It is a part of the process. The ones who cannot endure the silence will never understand the power of stillness. The ones who resist the solitude will never grasp the transformation that happens in the quiet. This is where you learn to hear what cannot be heard in the noise of the world. This is where you discover the strength that was buried beneath the expectations of others. This is where you realize that your identity is not tied to who is around you, but to who you were created to be. The stripping away is not to leave you empty. It is to make room for what is coming. It is easy to believe that your worth is connected to who stays and who leaves, that the presence of others validates your purpose, that the absence of support means you are on the wrong path. But purpose is not dependent on a crowd. Destiny is not determined by the opinions of others, and true growth happens when you no longer seek approval, when you no longer chase validation, when you no longer need an audience to believe in what is inside of you. Not everyone will understand the journey you are on. Not everyone will see the vision you carry. Not everyone will recognize the value of what is being built in the hidden places. But their understanding is not required for you to move forward. Some people will walk away because they cannot comprehend the process. Some people will distance themselves because they are not meant to be part of the next chapter. Some people will misunderstand your silence, question your separation, assume that you have lost your way. But the approval of people was never the foundation of your purpose. There will be a moment when you realize that everything you thought you needed was only temporary, that the relationships that faded were never meant to last forever, that the opportunities that disappeared were never meant to define your path, that the comfort you once clung to was keeping you from stepping into something greater. The pain of separation is real, but so is the purpose behind it. The loneliness feels heavy, but so does the weight of destiny. You are not here by accident. You are not in this season without reason. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Every person who has walked in greatness has known the pain of isolation. Every leader who has changed lives has endured a season of being set apart. Every soul who has stepped into their calling has first walked through the valley of solitude. Because the elevation requires transformation, and transformation requires separation. This is the time when you learn to stand without leaning on others, when you find your own voice instead of echoing the voices around you, when you build a foundation that is unshakable, so that when the storms come, you will not fall. This is where your strength is tested, your character is refined, your purpose is revealed. And though it may feel like nothing is happening, like you are stuck in a waiting season with no end in sight, something is shifting. Something is being built inside of you that will sustain you when the blessings arrive. But you must not give up. You must not grow weary. You must not allow frustration to make you settle for less than what has been prepared for you. Many walk away too soon. Many give up before the breakthrough. Many rush the process and step into places they are not yet ready for. But those who endure, those who trust, those who remain steadfast in the quiet, they are the ones who see the fullness of what was meant for them. One day, the doors that were once closed will open. The opportunities that seemed lost will be restored. The connections that faded will be replaced with something greater. And in that moment, you will understand why you had to be set apart. You will see why the isolation was necessary. You will realize that nothing was lost. It was only being aligned. Nothing was taken. It was only being prepared. Nothing was delayed. It was only being perfected. And when that moment comes, you will not resent the loneliness. You will not regret the waiting. You will not wish that things had happened sooner, because you will know that everything happened in the perfect time, in the perfect way, for the perfect purpose. And all that once felt like loss will be revealed as gain. All that once felt like suffering will be seen as preparation. All that once felt like emptiness will overflow with abundance. But until that day comes, you must keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, keep preparing, because your story is not over. Your journey is not finished. Your best days are not behind you. And what is ahead is far greater than anything you are leaving behind. One day, everything will make sense. The loneliness, the waiting, the moments of uncertainty, all of it will reveal its purpose in time. What once felt like isolation will be seen as preparation. What once seemed like loss will be recognized as alignment. Every tear, every silent night, every door that closed was never meant to break you, but to build you. You were never forgotten. You were never left behind. You were never overlooked. You were being set apart, molded for something greater, strengthened for what was ahead. And when the right moment arrives, when the preparation is complete, when the season shifts, you will walk into what was always meant for you. You will see that the isolation was not to harm you, but to elevate you. That the separation was not rejection, but redirection. That the waiting was never wasted. So hold on, keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, because the moment will come when the doors open, when the purpose is clear, when the blessings unfold. And in that moment, you will look back and realize it was all worth it. Every step, every sacrifice, every lonely night, it was all leading you here.